Hi, Art Fein. Art Fein's Poker Party coming to you from Hollywood with some big Hollywood stars. First on the far left, we got a great rock and roll star. We got Randy California from Spirit. Randy, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Art. It's good to be here.
It's good to have you here, and we'll talk to you plenty in just a minute. Thanks, Todd. Next to me and next to Randy, I got Todd Everett, famous scribe. Todd, are you still doing stringing work for Daily Variety?
Still doing some stuff for Daily Variety and various assorted other publications, record companies, things like that.
You writing them bios that I read that I get in my records?
Writing them bios, writing them liner notes.
Where do you shove them bios now? You know, I used to get them nice bios in 8x10s, and you put them in the album, and then you could save them. Now you get a CD, it's about the size of a postage stamp. What do you do with the are they making smaller bios to send out with them?
No.
Would you suggest,
smaller acts.
Would you suggest that next time you're at the record company?
I will do that.
Or would you just suggest they go back to records? All right, speaking of records, I brought with the cover of Spirit's second album, right?
That's right.
So, you know, I've been trying for a long time to find out where that photograph was taken. Do you have any idea where a person might be able to find out that information?
This is Spirit's second album, Motel $6 a Night. Actually, a lot of people think this album's called Motel $6 a Night. In fact, it's called The Family That Plays Together. But as a matter of fact, now that you mention it, this here book, the LA Musical History Tour, on page I forget which, has the entire story of the location of that album cover. So you might want to pick that up, but you might not, because we don't endorse things here on the Poker Party. Nah. Randy, this is the second Spirit album, and it's got I Got a Line on You, which certainly is the band's most famous cut. Did the first album have any hits as such?
The first album had a song called Mechanical World.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of a deathly dirge about death falling on your soul. And believe it or not, it was our first single, and it came out in 1967.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a hit in Miami, Florida. And that's where we did our very first tour, in Miami, Florida.
Now, you were a California group. Your name's California. You were a California group in the LA area. The other members were you tell me. I can read it here, but Jay Ferguson.
Mark Andes was our bass player.
Uh-huh.
He since has played with Firefall, and now he plays with Heart. Uh-huh. John Locke's our keyboard player. And he's played with Nazareth for a while, and he worked at the Air Studios in Montserrat. And Jay Ferguson, who hasn't done much in the live field lately, but he's done a lot of movies, television movies, soundtracks.
Now, we didn't
And the irrepressible Ed Cassidy.
Yeah, you didn't mention.
Yeah, well, that goes without saying. He's like my buddy, my partner.
All right, Ed Cassidy, who's on the back of this here album. Now, at the time when I was just a young youth hearing about this band, somebody said, God, one of the guy's fathers is in the band, which was not exactly true, but sort of true, right? Stepfather?
Yeah, Ed Cassidy married my mother when I was 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And believe it or not, when he joined Spirit back in 1967, when we formed Spirit, that is,
mm-hmm.
he was older than I am now.
Still, even then.
What had you been doing band-wise before then?
We had another band that was comprised of most of the members of Spirit called the Red Roosters. Except for our keyboard player, John Locke, it was the same group. Otherwise, we had
And Cassidy.
Cassidy, Jay, and Mark, yeah.
Really?
It was a folk rock group.
Okay.
Yep.
So wait, so Cassidy was drumming with you guys. Oh wait, you said he married your mother when you were 15. So were you in the Red Roosters? He joined the Red Roosters as a result of meeting you through marrying your mother, or was it around the same time? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I think they fell in love, got married, then we lived together, and hence he's practicing in the bathroom and I'm playing guitar in the living room, and we bumped into each other and started saying, let's form a band.
I mean, you've kept your ears open. There's no other precedent for this arrangement. I mean, the stepfather even in the band. I mean, Ed's still drumming with you.
Uh-huh.
And he's how old now?
68.
And he was an actual accomplished jazz drummer who went to rock and roll, right?
That's right. He played with Thelonious Monk and Zoot Sims, and he was on the road with big bands in Dixieland. Incredible history. Yeah.
Todd, and you're a pretty smart guy too, Todd. I thought I'd throw that in.
Thank you.
Do you know of any...
I don't know who those people are. He tells me Zoot Sims, you know. Who's Zoot Sims?
He made the suits. Is there anything like a guy that much older entering into rock and roll? I can't think of anything where a guy with a startup band like this, you know, in the 60s particularly.
I can't think of anything offhand. There may be, but I can't think of anything.
So you said he's the celebrated Mr. Skin who's sung about on one of the albums.
Yeah, that was on our 12 Dreams album, Mr. Skin.
The 12 Dreams of Dr. Sardonicus album, which I didn't bring with me, but when I did have that T-shirt you so graciously gave me, I wore it around. It attracted an uncommon amount of attention. I didn't know it would. I mean, nice, I'll wear the T-shirt
People
for a while.
that thought it was an interesting photo, or they knew about the
No,
album?
they were very flipped, but to have a Spirit T-shirt that had that album on it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you sign them up for our mailing list?
Well, give me a card so I can
All
just
right.
pass it out to them.
Do you mind if I mention the 800 number where people can sign up to our mailing list for our fan club?
I think we'll...
800 number is free.
It doesn't cost anything.
Doesn't cost
So
anything.
that's cool.
Yeah.
People call up and they get our mailing list.
Yeah.
It's 1-800-766 music.
Okay.
Okay.
So
Who is in Spirit these days?
Well, recently the original band, the entire original band, got together for a concert sponsored by KLSX, which is the classic rock station, at Fountain Valley. It was Spirit, the original band, and the Doobie Brothers, a free concert in the park, and 70,000 people showed up. And it was like a very
That was
special...
just the Doobie Brothers.
What?
And that was just the Doobie
all the,
Brothers.
I mean, all the former members of the
Yes,
Doobie
all the
Brothers.
former
That's
members of the Doobie Brothers.
70,000 of them. Okay,
Joke.
that's a little joke. Todd's also a comedian. Yeah.
Okay.
But
So-
that was, I remember.
So now, 2 months ago, the entire original group got together for that particular event.
Yeah.
And at various times, original members will say, hey, let's get together and do this recording thing or this live gig thing.
So there's no continuing Spirit, particularly.
Well, I think that there is. And matter of fact, next month here in Los Angeles, I don't know when this show is going to be out, but in January '92, Spirit, 3 of the original members are getting together to do some gigs.
Great.
So it's kind of an open thing.
So do we see your name, the Spirit name, popping up around the country? Are you touring now and then?
We just did 3 weeks in Germany
No
and
kidding.
England.
Oh, great.
So we're out there working in whatever configuration. It's
Also-
always myself and Ed Cassidy,
Yeah.
Okay.
the bald drummer, the wonderful jazz musician turned rock drummer, and then it's sometimes Jay and Mark and John, or just John and our...
So everybody's on good terms and all
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
exactly.
We should, before we get into, which I think we'd all like to find out what you were doing individually, there are a couple of reissue albums available now. CBS has put out a 2 CD, I would assume 2 cassette retrospective of The Best of Spirit, which is a real good package. Then there's another one, which I've seen advertised, but is that stuff from the same era that you put out on your own label or somebody else did?
Well, the one that we put out
That is you.
on our own, is called Chronicles.
Yeah.
And that's includes our very first recording sections from 1967, before our first album.
Is that the stuff Barry Hansen
Yeah.
produced?
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's
And,
right.
there's a 12-minute version of the song Elijah, which was an instrumental that appeared on the first album. And that's the first time we went in the studio and recorded it, and that's on the Chronicles album. And Elijah was an interesting song because it consisted of a sort of a jazz-type 3/4 musical head, and then in between the heads, each member of the band would be able to take a solo and do whatever he wanted to do, and then go back to the head. It'd be like a vehicle, like a jazz vehicle within the rock idiom. And everybody in the group was free to do whatever they wanted to do.
Was that the big Freak Out Club number?
As a matter of fact, Jay and Mark, our lead singer and bass player, very often for their solos would put 2 chairs together like this, sit down in front of a microphone and start doing the ham bone. And for people who don't know what the ham bone is, it's an old thing where you go, and they do that and got faster and faster and faster and drove the audience wild. And once in a while, Ed Cassidy, instead of playing a drum solo, would start getting off of his drums and beating on the stage, walk to the edge of the stage and start beating on people's heads.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
How did Ed take to being a rock and roll drummer? With his own background, was he patronizing about it at all? Did he find it a challenge? Is it just a way to make some money and hang around the family?
I think as he explains it, the whole jazz idiom had gotten real negative. There was a real negative vibe to it, you know, that's sort of going inward, whereas rock was more outward and relating to the audience. And I think that's the kind of person he was, more of an open person. So I think that was more akin to his sort of attitude towards life, and I think that's why he changed.
Did he keep on playing jazz at all subsequently?
I think when he practices, you hear him practicing.
Yeah, but you don't see him in clubs sitting in with whoever.
You know, in that, Ty, you have this book, don't you?
Certainly do.
The LA Musical History Tour. In there, in the Topanga entry, I also mentioned the fact that were you was the entire band living in Topanga Canyon when Barry Hansen, a.k.a. Dr. Demento, lived with the band?
Yeah, we all lived in one house.
Mm-hmm. I didn't get a picture of that house because I was standing on the bridge trying to figure out which one it was behind the foliage, so I never did quite figure it out.
It used to be yellow. I think it's green or something now.
In Topanga, they're very proud of those things. You ask them and say, that's the house the spirit lived in. That's kind of local lore. They're very tickled about that. Another thing that when I asked you about a connection with Hendrix, you gave me like a tape recording back because it's something you're frequently asked. And it's like, here I did this. Okay, here's what he said essentially. I was in New York, I was in the Village, I was in a record store, I ran into Hendrix, we started playing together, so we played at the Cub for a couple months. And I said, Randy, this is the first I've heard of it. I'm sorry. I mean, I know you tell it every day, but I mean, so you were in a club in the Village and prior to Spirit's formation, and you ran into Hendrix, you just met and liked each other, and for a while jammed, or did you form a band as such together?
You want to know the details slowly now? No recording?
Yeah.
Okay, since it's for your TV show. And we like your TV show.
Okay.
And I can't wait for the card game.
Yeah.
Right after Ed Cassidy married my mom when I was 15, we got in our car and we drove out to New York because Cass heard there was some jazz gigs out there for him. Mm-hmm. Whilst there, I walked into a music store on my own and I met Jimi Hendrix. He was playing a guitar.
I know.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You know the story? The cameraman knows.
Yeah, everybody
the story.
knows this story, but we don't. Okay.
He was playing a guitar in the back of the store, and I said, can I borrow the guitar and show you some of my licks? So I played him some of my licks, and we just sort of vibed on each other. That sounds like a hippie kind of colloquialism, but we
This is also before he was Jimi Hendrix.
We connected, okay, and he invited me to play in the club that night called the Cafe Wah, and the name of the group was Jimmy James and the Blue Flames. And that's what I thought his name was, Jimmy James. And we played there for 3 months.
He thought your name was Randy California, so.
Actually, he named, there was 2 Randys in the band, one from Texas and one from California. So they used
So
to,
he named you?
He called me Randy California and him Randy Texas.
Wow.
It was just like one of those things. And we played together for 3 months. During that time, people from the Rolling Stones and the Animals and all these English groups started coming around checking him out because he was a great musician. And after a while, Chas Chandler from the Animals convinced Jimmy to come over to England with him. And Jimmy wanted to bring me, but I was too young and my parents said no. So he left, and then when I got back to California, about 2 months later, Barry Hansen brought me this album called Jimi Hendrix. And I said, Jimi Hendrix? Let me hear this. I said, boy, that sounds just like that guy I've been playing with for the last 3 months in New York. And it was Jimmy James, Jimi Hendrix.
Is that it again?
Yeah.
That sounds like the Neil Schoen story. Is that how you pronounce that? I mean, a real talented young kid who was making his mark. Never mind. Maybe it doesn't sound like a Neil Schoen story, but it's an interesting thing. So when you came back to L.A., you say you ran into the Spirit guys again at Love-In?
Exactly. There was, back in those days, for people that aren't old enough to remember, they had Love-Ins and Be-Ins. And those consisted of pockets and groups of people settling in a park, sitting around smoking, you know what, and 2 or 3 different stages and bands playing and
Lots of incense, lots of tie-dye.
Yeah, it was just like a big party on the weekend or something, which is great. And we ran into Jay and Mark, me and Cass, and we said, well, here we are. Played with this guy named Jimmy. It was great. I learned some licks. Let's get together and start making music again. And that's how Spirit started.
So how long was it before you got signed to Ode? How did that take place?
We played in Topanga for probably about a year.
At the Corral?
Actually, our first gig was at a place called the Moonfire When we got paid, we each got a hamburger. Not a cheeseburger, a hamburger. That was our first gig.
Yeah.
I remember the old days, we all used to run through one amplifier. Yeah, the bass, the guitar, the piano. It's just like sort of normal. One day when we finally got our deal and we got separate amps, we were saying, "Am I too loud? Am I too loud?"
So then, did they find you? And did the Ode people, did Lou Adler, I guess, find you in Topanga, or did you?
No, they
were you
didn't
shopping,
find us
somebody
in
shopping the
Topanga.
tape around?
We didn't have a tape, although we had those tapes from Barry Hansen. But how Lou Adler discovered us was we played at a place called the Ash Grove, which was a folk music mecca of the time, and we played there every Monday night. And he sent his little cousin Marshall Blonstein down to check us out to see if we had potential. And apparently the report was yes, so then we did another audition for the man himself at the Whiskey A Go-Go.
Was it common for rock and roll bands to play the Ash Grove?
No, it wasn't, but they had lots of blues bands like Canned Heat, and the Rising Suns was a band.
So you sort of slid in. Well, you had connections with the club as well.
I did have connections at the club.
That's right. Speaking of family trees, what was that? Now that
Yeah.
who
It
owned
was
the club?
Actually, my mother's brother, Ed Pearl, owned the club.
And then your mother's other brother, Bernie Pearl, is a
Blues guitar player.
around town.
Musician, band leader, disc jockey, aficionado, expert,
He's done a lot,
promoter.
Yeah.
for the blues in L.A.
I mean, certainly as has Ed.
Yeah.
So the Epic first album came out, and it was pretty well received right off the bat. It was a big hit in Florida, they tell me.
Yeah. I remember, I think it was KMET played it from beginning to end. We were up in Topanga listening to it. Hey, that's us on the air. We were all excited. And
But I Got a Line of You came on the second album, which actually we heard it a lot. Was it actually a single hit also?
yeah, it was a single, and it was a hit. I think it was top 25.
Now the other song I think of when I think of Spirit, of course, is Fresh Garbage, but that's another album.
That's from the first album. That's the
First
first song on the first album.
Oh, okay.
People remember that song.
But it wasn't a single. It was just a well-played, a much-played FM cut.
Exactly.
So, as this started to roll, you did tour all over the world. You say you're big in Germany now. Were you touring overseas in the late 60s?
We did a couple of tours overseas. We didn't concentrate on overseas. We mostly toured in the United States. At least 3 or 4 times a year we'd go around and do the whole states.
And you were playing during big festival time. Were you on some of those?
Yeah, we played the Atlanta Pop Festival. We played... There was one in Denver. We played...
But you didn't hit any of the biggies. You didn't hit Watkins Glen or Woodstock.
Atlanta was pretty big.
Which one was?
Atlanta.
Yeah.
Yeah, Led Zeppelin and Hendrix and I think the Grateful Dead.
Could you get access to? Oh, you're backstage. You're all musicians. Was you still seeing Hendrix now and then, or was he like off in another world by the time he was big?
No, we always shook hands and had a good word for each other when we saw each other.
When did you become Captain Copter?
This was after Jay and Mark left Spirit. After the Sardonicus album, there was a sort of a lull, and I left Spirit and decided to do a solo album.
Was there still something called Spirit going on at the time?
There may have been,
only
but
without you and
I
Jay and
wasn't
Mark.
part of it. Yeah.
So the name of that album totally was what?
Captain Copter and the Fabulous Twirlybirds.
Uh-huh.
That was about '72.
That was also on Epic.
Yeah, that was like a solo album, and Noel Redding from Jimi Hendrix band played bass, and he had an anonymous name on there called Clit Victorious, because he was involved in some record deal, and he was afraid they were going to find out he was doing this on the side.
Was he Fat Mattress?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What?
Fat Mattress.
Was Noel Redding's band.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly. He
So
was
he was
doing Fat
involved in
Mattress at
another
the time,
record
and he
deal.
was-
Oh, I see. So Noel
Right.
Redding used the pseudonym on the album.
Yeah, Clit Victorious.
I see. Okay, gotcha.
I'll explain the show to you later after it's
No, I thought he said in addition to Noel Redding, there was somebody else who used the
Oh no,
pseudonym.
I'm
Ran in
sorry.
California. But that's Most blues artists you talk to aren't getting royalties, but we don't hear that so much about the young white fellas from the '60s. I guess you're probably raking.
Let's talk about the blue artists, the blues artists.
You're making lots of money
You're
off
probably
Old
raking,
Spirit records.
raking lots of dough in off that old stuff. Huh?
Now, why did you direct that blues artist not making any money?
Well, no, it's that we often hear old blues artists saying that they don't get paid for their old stuff. The question is, do rock and roll acts face the same predicament sometimes, or at least do you?
No, every record company I've been with has paid me on time. Their accounting has been completely straight, and they've been totally honest.
That's
Our producer,
sensational.
Clive Davis really promoted us, and Lou
Yeah.
Adler loved us. There was no politics or conflict in between those guys.
That's sensational. That's almost unbelievable.
And even though Lou Adler was our manager, our publisher, our record company, and our business manager,
And your producer.
and our producer, and he took 50% of everything we didn't make as well, he treated us well.
It's good to know there are people like that in the record business.
Does this show include a free meal? But I did get paid.
There's a standard question that we got, which is, what's the first record you bought?
Yeah?
Yeah.
I remember. It was in New Jersey, and I had my choice between a Beatles song and a Beach Boys song. And it was Surfin' Safari.
That was it.
Surfin' Safari, yeah.
And what about the first memorable rock show you saw?
Memorable rock show I saw.
I mean, did something spur you? Were you always playing guitar? I mean, did you see something that made you play guitar?
Or did you grow up at the Ash Grove?
Well, that's the thing. I grew up watching Mance Lipscomb and Lightning Hopkins and Doc Watson and Brownie and Sonny. So I had all that real traditional music.
Yeah, you're not one of the
Behind me.
guys we can ask this question to then, because
No.
you really grew up with
No.
good music all the time.
Yeah.
Did you always like that kind of music, or was there ever a point where you rejected it, as many of us do, our parents' music?
I don't know, when I first heard the Carter Family album and they were doing Jimmy Brown, that beautiful picking with the thumb and the finger, it really thrilled me, and I wanted to learn that. And I think after a while, if you play loud music, at least I did, I got insensitive to the traditional roots that I came from. And only recently, like the last 5 or 10 years, I've gotten back into it.
Mhm.
But yeah, you're right, you do kind of push it away after a while, because you think, well, the electronic gizzardry is so much cooler.
Or just take it for granted because it's there all the time in your case?
Yeah.
Spirit Corp, Spirit, whatever it is right now, is run by you out of Ojai right now, run by you and your mother, or would you say that? That's safe to say?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
And you're producing new records on yourself. You had some connection with Sarah Fleetwood, was it?
Sarah Fleetwood is Mick Fleetwood's wife.
Right.
She's a wonderful singer. And on the Chronicles album, which we mentioned before, we redid Nature's Way, and she sings on that. So that's the connection there.
Now you're wearing a limited edition Earth T-shirt. You did mention, I believe a few months ago to me, that there was some kind of perhaps tie-in for Nature's Way with some environmental movements or something like that, because they've picked up that song.
Well, Nature's Way is, I guess, considered sort of an anthem for the earth and for ecology. And we offer that song, the musical track to that song, for people who want to utilize it for environmental causes. And this guy just made this shirt and gave it to me.
All right.
Yeah.
So numerous groups have that song available to them if they want to, and environmental
Groups or causes. Say if Greenpeace said, hey, can we use this on a commercial to help save the dolphins or the whales, I'd say, yeah, go ahead. You know.
That really was ahead of its time.
I'm
as
not going
an
to charge you
environmental
for
anthem.
something that's going to help the earth. Yeah.
Cool.
And that's why one of the reasons why we redid it, because CBS, which is now Sony, that's the big record company. They're not going to help anybody with Nature's Way unless they pay them a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't care about that stuff anyway. They care about making money and screwing artists.
So it chronicles his new stuff.
I'm
and
sorry,
old
they
stuff.
pay all their artists. So
Well, that was the previous administration. I mean, these people have nothing to do with that.
all right.
Well, maybe there'll be one like that. What is that blues foundation that digs up money for all the people who were on Atlantic? I mean, on labels that didn't pay them, and maybe there'll be one for psychedelic '60s people that didn't get paid. When did you say you went to Germany this year?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I mean, is there any other pockets? Is that like a big pocket of Spirit fandom?
Are they
there?
reissuing your stuff over there? Is Line or somebody putting out all this?
Well, we
stuff?
shipped Chronicles over there, and it's done really well. We shipped about 3,000 or 4,000, and it sold out. So they
By the way,
they seem to know the history of groups a lot more in Europe.
That's the same country that likes "It's a Beautiful Day" quite a bit too, as I recall.
Really?
I like "It's a Beautiful Day" a lot.
What was their song? White Bird? Yeah, that was a great song.
They
I
also
bought
did-
their album.
They also did an instrumental, sort of a jazz rock instrumental called Don and Dewey, which was just wonderful. David LaFlamme, a fiddle player.
Yeah.
But I saw it playing in some weird half-assed country band at the Palomino a couple of years ago.
Well, there is no Ash Grove, but you still have you expressed an interest in picking the blues. And if we had had a guitar today, you would have been picking a little bit.
I'd love to, yeah.
Is
I'm
there
sorry.
is there any place you're going now to occasionally look to do that kind of thing around L.A.?
If there was, I'd go, like a folk music club.
Yeah. I guess there isn't. I mean, McCabe's is all structured. You can't just walk in.
21, sort of. But
Yeah.
I guess I could walk down there. The guy invited me to come down any time.
Yeah.
I went to a neat club a couple of days ago, the Baked Potato in the Valley. And I saw a great group. They're called Don Randy and the Quest.
yeah.
And they did, I mean, the musicianship in that group to me was just phenomenal.
Of course, it
blew
would
me
be
away.
because Don Randy played on all those Phil Spector records, so you'd expect him to be a top-notch musician.
Did he?
He did.
He's one of the billion keyboards.
I was going to say, what was he hitting over and over? Keyboards? He's one of the assembled
But
pianos.
Quest is sort of a fusion band, isn't it?
Yeah, and they did a Beatle medley. And it was amazing because he said, now we're going to do a medley of songs that's it's hard to believe, 30 years old. And started doing Eleanor Rigby.
Randy owns the Baked Potato also.
Does he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don Randy?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well,
Not Randy, California.
okay.
Oh,
Well, we want to thank you. The show's over. I want to thank you, Randy
I
Keller.
felt sorry for them and I bought their cassette. They owns the pub.
Well, the rest of them don't.
Okay.
And you know they'll get royalties because they probably put the cassette out themselves. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Randy, California. It's been an exciting show. We'll do
Thanks,
another one
Art.
next time. You could bring your axe, and we'll do.
I will.
And we'll do
I'll
some
bring
more.
it. And we'll play cards too.
We'll play cards, and now we know how Jimi Hendrix gave you your name, and lots of other things we didn't know before. So thanks very much for dropping by. Thank you for watching. And when I overdub it, we'll go out on "I Got a Line on You" by Spirit.
Thank you.
We could show this. You can't buy it.
Look me
I got a line on you, babe.
Cool. Hi, I'm Art Fein. It's Art Fein's Poker Party coming to you from Santa Monica, the birthplace of the band Spirit. Is that right, fellas? Or Randy?
Yeah, we were born close by, real close.
Okay, well, let me go left to right. Scott wasn't there during the birth, but Scott's the new member, the keyboardist of the group Spirit. Scott Monahan, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And welcome to the band Spirit. When did you join them? What year?
Well, back in the early 80s, Randy and I used to work up in Malibu
Yeah.
at Trinkus back in like 1982.
Uh-huh.
So we've been working together for almost, that makes 3 years now.
Well,
No, it's 1993.
Oh, yeah.
it's close enough for a musician. That's very good. Thank you very much, Scott. Next in we got Randy California. Second time in. Randy, good to see you.
Good to see you. Back at the poker party.
Yeah, man. And since I saw you, I mean, I don't know if I was responsible for it, but your fortunes have skyrocketed since being on this show.
It's been unbelievable, Art. What this show, I can't thank you enough. What this show has done for my career. Got the cover of Playboy magazine, the centerfold. No.
You guys are playing next Friday and Saturday at the Eclectic Cafe, one of them coffee houses. That's February 19th and 20th, but it'll be past by the time this airs. But you will be playing coffee house kind of gigs, but you vacillate between that and
that's
big concerts, right?
That's a special gig, the Eclectic. It's on Lancashire and Magnolia.
Yeah.
And you know, David Sheehan, the guy that does reporting for one of the stations, his son Brian owns it, so we're kind of doing him a favor to help put that
You
little
help
place on the map.
newsmen's sons generally. Is that what it is? You said that sort of matter-of-factly, like I should follow.
Well,
the
actually,
logic.
Scott knows David Sheehan. He did a story on him
Oh,
a while back. So
Said I was going to be a superstar.
well, he's right.
and look what happened.
Yeah. All right. Well, next to me we haven't introduced Ed Cassidy, the drummer from Spirit. Ed, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Art. It's been a real pleasure having you meet me.
It's good to see you, man. You know, Ed's been the drummer from Spirit all along,
Yes.
going way back to when did the band started in '68 or '7?
Well, Spirit officially got going in the end of '67, but we actually were playing together in '65.
All right. Well, talking about them old days, let's cut back to a video that you guys brought with for "I Got a Line on You." That's that 1969 composite of film footage and various stuff put together especially for this song. So it is a video, I guess, right?
It's
As opposed to a documentary or something.
yeah.
You know, check the photography out on this, Art.
Okay, we'll take a
this will
look
really
at
blow
it.
you away.
Cool thing, Got a Line on You, 1969. Let's take a look. Don't adjust your color, it's in black and white.
Let me take you, baby, down to the riverbed. Got to tell you something, go right to your head. I got a line on you, baby. I got a line on you, baby. I got a line on you. I got a
Man, the concept of this is really kind of sitting here with me now. You were on a train and then you're on a plane.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're in motion, so to speak.
That's heavy.
And we're in a limousine, too.
And you say Pennebaker shot that?
Pennybaker, yeah.
Pennybaker?
Well, Pennybaker. He did Dylan's Don't Look Back.
And he did lots of them zoom lens things.
He was
effects
the
that come
hot
in there. Yeah.
producer in those days.
Yeah.
They didn't have video back then. It
Yeah,
was
that's right.
16 millimeter film, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
It wasn't also, what's that correct? Newport? Wasn't he part of that?
I don't
Maybe.
know. What do you think? I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. I think so.
Now, like the other couple guys in there, like, does Jay Ferguson still like wear women's clothes, or is that just at that point in his life?
He's living in Paris now, and he's head of a review company.
No, actually, I just saw his name go. But that furry thing and those scarves. I mean, what's with Ferguson? Well, I actually kind of know him a little bit from when I worked at Asylum, but isn't he doing some TV show now?
Yeah, it was just canceled, but he was doing the Going to Extremes soundtrack.
Is that right?
Yeah.
He's a cool guy.
But the music was so good. No, I'm just kidding. It was the acting, not the music.
Well, you know, we're tickled to death to have Ed here because last time we talked about him, but we couldn't talk to him. Ed, we know you're going to turn 70 in May of '93.
That's right.
And I know that the band is planning some big kind of extravaganza for this momentous occasion.
I'm hoping so.
That's great.
Yeah.
You know, now you started out as a jazz drummer, right?
Yeah, actually, I started out at country western.
Is that right?
Yeah. And then I worked my way into jazz.
Wow.
When I was about
Where,
15.
where were you in California?
Yeah, and when I call my hometown, Bakersfield, California.
Was that right?
Yeah. Yeah, was the Nashville of the West at one time.
Right.
Yeah.
So your jazz stuff.
It came in the town. At that
In the
time, there was a
60s?
lot of good music there,
Uh-huh.
jazz, Latin, and even some big band too. So
Uh-huh.
I was fortunate. There was a lot of music there.
But then your transition to a rock band is quite unusual. In fact, unique, I'd say, isn't it? I mean,
I think so. I got into rock and roll probably in '64,
Uh-huh.
and then getting hooked up.
now most people say that because they were inspired by the Beatles. I don't think that was your situation, was it?
Well, I was inspired by the Beatles.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I think the Beatles were incredible. You
Mhm.
know. But anyway, I got going with that, and just prior to that, Ray Manzarek and I had a jazz quintet together.
Was that right?
Yeah.
That's a bit of rock trivia that you didn't know.
You're right.
Yep.
Fooled
The
me
Doors
out.
and Spirit together.
Yeah, wow.
That's amazing.
Yep. In fact, when their comic book thing that they put out with Doors, in the middle of it is also we're in the middle of it.
Wow.
They split it up in half. Don't ask me why, but maybe that was Ray's idea.
And that's interesting because you guys and the Spirit and the Doors were sort of neck and neck as far as popularity in Los Angeles in the late '60s, and both went on to national fame.
Yeah, but anyway, jazz was was the big thing that I got into in later years. It stayed in until '63.
Uh huh. What kills me is that Randy showed me a clipping from New Musical Express from England right before the show, where you were second greatest historical rock drummer after who?
Ginger Baker and Ringo Starr.
No,
that
he was ahead of them, right?
Yeah, he was ahead of them.
Who's number one?
I don't remember.
We don't pay attention.
The can, but he was ahead of Ginger Baker and Ringo Starr. It was a reader's poll.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came in second in that, and of course, I didn't know about this until the last minute. But I also came in first in England a few years back.
Wow.
I didn't know about that.
Wow.
either. So,
What a right. The band plays England every so often, right?
Every couple of years
Yeah.
we go over and do a big European tour. So
Yeah.
Is that on a tour with, It's a Beautiful Day and other similar?
no, we just do our own
Just by yourself,
show.
huh?
We played London. We packed in the Town and Country Club there. Do a tour of Germany once a year usually.
Is that right?
Yeah, we have one thing that's unique, I think, is we've had bands over there open for us, and over here, like Led Zeppelin opened for us.
That's right.
Yeah, and then the last band that opened for us in England was a band that you might recall called Police.
Wow.
That was in '80. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, back in the late 60s when you were playing the Whiskey and playing Hollywood Bowl and everything else, I mean, you see the Grateful Dead open for you too?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah. Well, at the time you're talking about with us and the Doors, we played a gig one time at a place called the Cheetah in Santa Monica or Venice, where it was us, the Doors, and another band called the Hourglass,
Hourglass.
which was the Allman Brothers.
Allman Brothers, yeah, I know about
When they
that.
were starting out.
Huh. cool enough?
Yeah, it's
Well, it's pretty much an all-star band. The fourth member who we haven't mentioned from the original band was Mark Andes, right?
Right.
And he went on to Firefall and various
And
other.
Hart. He played with Hart for a while.
Oh yeah.
he played with him for a while, yeah.
Look, we're 10 minutes in already, and we wanted to get to that clip of a drum solo. Fill me in a little more on this one.
A couple of years ago, we did a date, an outdoor date, here in Southern California at Fountain Valley, and it was us and the Doobie Brothers, and it was sponsored by KLSX Radio. It was free for the public, and it was a great show. And here's a clip of Cass doing his drum solo, a quick drum solo during that show.
Cool. Let's take a look at that from the KLSX show, 1991. Thanks. That was what song was that, by the way?
That was "It's All the Same."
It's All the
That's
Same.
that was a quick drum solo. He usually does like a half an hour one. But
And what about that drum thing? I mean, in the foreground was a drum that looked the size of this platform.
Yes.
Is it, or is that just perspective?
Well, it's a custom-made set that I designed several years ago, and the big drum, I'm one on either side. It's 36 inches on this side and 40 on the right.
Wow.
You know, so it's like my wings. You know, I mean, it's like I'm in my little spaceship. You know.
Very cool.
Yeah, we had a good time down there.
So, what's the schedule for this, for like 93? I mean, there's some dates ahead?
well, the big date we're looking forward to is his birthday bass, which is going to be in the beginning of May. His actual birthday's on May 4th, but we'll probably do it either weekend. And KLSX Radio again is going to be supporting us and sponsoring it.
Wow.
I think maybe Avalon Attractions, Bill Graham's outfit's going to promote it for us.
Cool.
So in the next few weeks, we'll know if it's going to be at the Palace or the Santa Monica Civic or one of those kind of places.
Civic. Well, that would be reminiscent. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing going on at the Civic anymore, is there?
I don't know exactly what's going
Yeah,
on
I'm
there.
not sure. By the way, we have some standard questions. I got to hit Scott. What was the first record you bought? More embarrassing, the better.
It's a Beatle thing.
Yeah.
It was that one about holding hands.
Oh, that one. Okay.
Or was it I saw her standing there?
Well, that was the other side.
Hey, that was it then.
So what about the first concert you went to?
Oh boy, you're making me feel even younger than I am. Jethro Tull, Aqualung.
That sounds pretty new to me.
Yeah, they're like radically ahead of it. No.
So let's see. This is like a twofold question to Ed. Then, when you started getting interested in music, do you have any idea what the first record you bought was?
When I started buying records?
Yeah.
Oh, sure. Records like Sing, Sing, Sing with
Benny Goodman.
Benny Goodman.
Written by Louis Prima.
This guy
Yeah, I'll tell you another one
Louis
that
Prima.
no one knows about. It's like one I used to listen to all the time and practice to. It's called Central Avenue Breakdown and Jack the Bellboy. And it was the drum solo on it, and the guy who was playing drum solo was Lionel Hampton.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was a killer. I went, whoa!
Well, then we sort of got into. We talked about the Beatles, but when you're just a normal guy listening to jazz and pop and everything else in the late '50s, is there some point where you just got converted over to rock, where it really caught your attention? Is there some kind of one artist or something like that?
Yeah, one of the reasons I really switched over is I got bored with jazz.
Yeah.
It was like there was a lot of things about it that it wasn't happening for me. And then I remember when like the Yardbirds came out.
Yeah.
You know, and some of the other people, and then.
Well, what about the
What about
Yardbirds?
the Beatles came out? You
Yeah.
know, I said that's it, folks. No, I got started playing with the band in the Santa Monica area at that time. Well, they were playing in Melrose.
I'm sorry, who was
Ash
playing in
Grove.
Melrose?
This was a band that was starting up that had Ry Cooder, Taj Mahal,
Oh, the Rising Sons.
Right.
Yeah.
So I played in that band. And that really sort of got me going. That's where I met Randy.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, I guess I knew that, but I never laid it out in the connection.
So
Huh.
we got connected there. And I liked rock and roll because it was not only freer, but it was besides being contemporary, it was more like family. You know? People were like willing to share.
Hey, the family that plays together, you know.
There you go.
There you go. And besides that, while we're on that subject, now a lot of people have always different stories of interpretations of your Randy's father. And that's not true.
No. I was married to Randy's mom, Bernice, for 7 years. And
During the time that Spirit was Spirit?
right from about 66 on. And we were no longer married now. But that story sort of kept on.
Yeah.
And so, Randy and I have a very special relationship, And
Cool.
yeah, he's like a son.
Cool. Speaking of Randy's relationships, that segues into the fact that you played a lot with Jimi Hendrix way back when, like when you were just a kid.
In 1966, I was 15 years old, and I met Jimmy in a music store in New York. We had just moved back there, and Cass was doing a jazz gig somewhere in New York, and I met Jimmy in a music store, and we hooked up spiritually, mentally, and he invited me to play with him. That was his first solo gig at a place called the Cafe Wha, W-H-A, in Greenwich Village, Bleecker and McDougal. And we played for 3 months together, 5 sets a night, every night of the week except Sunday, until the guys from the Animals came down and the Rolling Stones, Chas Chandler, and they wanted to take him to England. Jimmy wanted me to go with him, but I was too young, too small. So I stayed.
But that's
and
where
we drove back in our green Chevrolet back to California and started up Spirit. So it worked out well.
Yeah, worked out well for everybody. And by the way, Hendrix is where you got the name California, right?
Well, yeah, yes and no. There were 2 Randys in the band. One was from Texas and I was from California. So people in the band used to call me Randy California, and him Randy Texas.
By the way, was that Jimi Hendrix, or was it Jimmy James, or what was it?
The band was called Jimmy James and the Blue Flames.
Yeah.
And I actually didn't know that his name was Jimi Hendrix until we got back to California, and Barry Hansen, Dr. Armento, said, "Look at this new album." I said, "Well, that's the guy I just played with in New York. His name's not Jimi Hendrix, it's Jimmy James." And I put it on, and I heard the guitar style, and I said, "Yeah, that's the same guy."
Well, Red House is a song that Hendrix played, and it's something that you played too.
We do that in our set, and sort of in my blood, playing Hendrix songs. We do Hey Joe and Watchtower, and we just added Red House to our set also.
Let's take a little listen to Red House as performed when?
Just about a month ago.
Which would be early '93.
Yeah,
Let's take a listen to that video. Where was it shot?
down at the Strand in Redondo Beach.
Okay.
There's a red house over yonder. That's where my baby stays. There's a red house over yonder. That's where my baby stays. Ain't been to see my baby in about a 99 and a 1/2 day. Wait a minute, something's wrong. The key won't lock the door. Oh, wait a minute, something's wrong. The key won't unlock that door. I got a bad, bad feeling My baby don't live here no more. That's all right. Still got my guitar.
It's actually still on. Okay, Red House, Todd Everett. Hi, Todd. Brought up a good question, Randy, was that when you were playing with Jimmy James in the Blue Flames in New York, was he doing pop covers? Was he doing contemporary music at the time?
I remember the first night I went down there, and we sat in the boiler room, which was the dressing room in this little club, and he taught me Hey Joe, Wild Thing, Shotgun, a bunch of blues standards. And then later on, as time went on, we played for 3 months together. He started writing original songs. One of them was called, he called it Look Over Yonder, and I think it ended up being Laughing Sam's Dice. And so as time went on, there were actually real rehearsals called, and he started writing songs.
Okay, you know, Ed, I wanted to mention that Ed put out this handbook for musicians. Is it for drummers or for musicians?
It's
generally?
for musicians.
It's something about listings of musicians union places, and well, tell me what's in it.
Well, it has a whole bunch of things. It has booking agents, it has management companies, it has things about medical for musicians, insurance.
Wow.
It has all the club listings in California, live music clubs, you know, and it's just what it says. It's a resource manual.
It's called the Ed Cassidy Musicians Survival Resource Manual.
Yeah.
Looks
It's good for kids that are starting out who are thinking about making music an actual career. And it's good for them to see the pros and cons of actually doing it by reading that book.
Well, it looks real handy.
Yeah, it is.
All right, fellas, you got your guitars. You've just been leaning on them most of the show, and I'd like to get into some more spirit music if we could.
Yeah.
Scott and Randy, what do you think?
Oh, we could do a Nature's Way for you.
Nature's Way. What do we talk about it first? Nature's Way has experienced something of a resurgence in the '80s, right?
Yeah, it gets played a lot on radio, and it's written back in 1971. So we were kind of ahead of our time, I guess.
That was on the Dr. Sardonicus album?
It was on the 12 Dreams album. Yeah.
12 Dreams of Dr. Sardonicus, which was your third album, right?
That was the fourth album.
Fourth, okay.
Fourth Spirit album.
Is it the biggest one?
It keeps selling today, and
Yeah.
it just keeps selling and selling. I guess it was a real quality product.
Cool.
A work of art. It took us 6 months to do, which was
Wow.
really a long
Yeah.
time in those days.
Yeah. All right, let's take a listen to something.
Ready.
Great, man.